What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cinema Wave podcast here at the Culture Wave Media Network, and we are here to discuss a long-awaited series that has been on Netflix for quite a long time. It is Volume 1 of the final season of Stranger Things. I want to be one of your hosts for this episode. My name is Darian. I am joined by Mark Jacobino.
What's up, everyone?
And Vinny Albano.
Hello, hello.
Lots to discuss, gentlemen. Lots to discuss. We only get 4 episodes of this final installment, final season of Stranger Things, the most iconic probably original series that they've ever released. I got my hat on. I'm a little bit of a fanboy. Thank you. I've had this hat for quite a long time. This is a series that I actually didn't watch season 1 when it was first released on Netflix, like when it originally came out, but I binged it before season 2 came out, and then in succession I've been a massive fan. This is the second season of the show that I watched all in one day. This one isn't as impressive as when I did it for season 3, where I watched a whole entire season in one day on the 4th of July. I'll never forget that. A great viewing experience with my brother. But this show means a lot to me. I'd probably say it's my second favorite Netflix series ever besides Mindhunter. So it's up there for me. I really have enjoyed the ride with these characters. And now we're at a point in time where they have to kind of stick the landing, because there's been a lot of time in between season 4 and now volume 1 of season 5. And our characters are growing, and the actors are growing in a certain way where, you know, you're dealing with child actors when they had started. Now these actors are in their 20s. So that's going to be a big topic of discussion when we're discussing this. But I want to start the discussion by kind of understanding what your guys' level of fandom is with this series, because it is one that it goes beyond just casual viewing. Like, a lot of people watch Stranger Things, and this is the first time we get to do anything Stranger Things related on the channel, because we started in 2022.
Shows how long between seasons.
Exactly, because we've been doing this for such a long time. So, Mark, starting with you, what is your level of fandom when it comes to Stranger Things, and how do you appreciate it compared to maybe other series that are out in the lexicon of television right now?
I would say I'm a very casual enjoyer. I watch it whenever it comes out. With season 4, I kind of did something similar to you, where, you know, you binge most of the season in one day with those really long episodes. Season 4 is incredible. Really enjoyed season 2 and 3. I think season 1 is still my favorite. I think that's kind of like the pinnacle of what this show is, and the heart that this show has. But I'd say I really only think about the show when it's coming out. I wouldn't say like in between seasons I'm rewatching and like diving into the lore. So I'd say I'm a pretty casual fan, but I do really enjoy it.
Vinny, what about you?
Yeah, I am in a similar boat. However, I was once a pretty big fan. I mean, at this point I've grown up with these characters. Like,
You're the closest to their age.
Yeah.
In comparison to the panel we have right now.
Yeah, a lot of them are the same age as me, and I've grown up with them. It's meant a lot to me, the series. I went to that Brooklyn pop-up event thing. I forget what that was. Honestly, it feels like a dream at this point. But yeah, but then over time I've grown out of it, and I feel that Stranger Things has lost a lot of what I loved in the first 2 seasons. And yeah, now I'm just the same way that you are, Mark, where I just don't really think about it until when it's coming out.
Yeah. So I'll say that for me, like I said, I really do love the series. Season 1 seems to be everybody's favorite season, because again, it kind of brought us to where we were. I think for me personally, I haven't rewatched the series, but I really still like season 2, because I think that was my entry point, and I liked the introduction of Max's character and Dacre Montgomery's character Billy. When we get to season 3, that's where I think things start to shift a little bit. Even though I enjoy my viewing experience of it, the whole Russian side plot was one that I didn't necessarily 100% love when it first kind of came and went. And the stuff they were doing with Hopper, but I love the aesthetic of that season. I love like the neon mall aspect of it, and how it kind of leans into, again, the trademark of what this series is, which is a tribute to the 80s and what the Duffer brothers were able to do with it. But now with this season 5, we're in a whole different ballgame. We get to this point where there are aspects of it where it's like, is this too big for what Stranger Things really excels at? I know the budget for this season is hundreds of millions of dollars. We're now utilizing more CG than we ever have in the series. And so much so that the final episode of this show It's going to be like a 2-hour epic that is also going to be shown in movie theaters. So we're reaching that point. So for you, through these 4 episodes, without giving away spoilers to start, Mark, how do you feel about the way that they're approaching the epic scale of what they're trying to accomplish with this volume 1 of season 5?
Yeah, so I think my biggest gripe with this first part is that it's become too complex for me. And I like complexity in shows. I enjoy when there's a lot to chew on, but I feel like it's very clunky in this first volume. They're trying to do so many different things, and they're bringing in really high concepts of like not only different dimensions like upside down, but so many other things that I think it's hard to get back to that core of what Stranger Things is. And I really want to see how it all wraps up. I think that might change my initial thoughts of this first volume, because if they stick the landing, maybe some of the smaller portions of this first part will hit a bit harder. But if they don't, I think this first portion is just going to feel super expositional, a lot of pacing issues, and I'll look at it, less fondly at the end if it doesn't stick the landing.
Yeah, Vinny, what about you?
Yeah, I feel similar in that aspect. One, we'll get into it more in detail, but at this point in the series, I'm a little confused why they're still introducing new things. Specifically the whole Mr. What's It and all of that, and there's this whole mystery now on top of that. It just feels like it's like a whole other concept, like you mentioned, like this high concept being introduced. At this point, we're like wrapping up the series. This feels too late to do that. Also, I'm a little disappointed with these 4 episodes. I enjoyed them. I had fun. But overall, I feel a lot of the magic has been lost, and a lot of things are just being paved over, literally. Like the whole cracks in Hawkins is just like, oh yeah, we forgot about it. We just like paved them over. And it feels like they don't know where they were going in a way. So I have a lot of thoughts, but overall I am a little disappointed.
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I do think that conceptually the Duffer brothers are able to, they have these big wide minds for being able to create a world within the world. Like it's not an easy concept to do what like George Lucas does with Star Wars. I'm not comparing it directly to that, but this was a show that, by my understanding, it was never intended to be more than a limited series. And they've made it a phenomenon for Netflix and a phenomenon across television. Like this is one of the arguably the defining shows of the 2010-2020s in the whole scope of what television has become, and especially the streaming era. This is a massive show. Maybe besides Squid Game, it's probably the second biggest Netflix has ever done. But I do agree where it feels like, especially with some of these, and we actually get into conversations about other shows, Star Wars specific actually, where like runtime is a big thing, right? Where it's like, well, why did they decide to make this episode 34 minutes when they could have just made it a 47-minute episode and gave us more information within that? I think the problem is that this has become so big and the expectation and the pressure is so much now that it almost gives the Duffers an excuse to make longer runtimes, to introduce more of this new information, because I agree. It's like, this is the epic conclusion of what Stranger Things is supposed to be. And yes, it's going to be, I believe it's going to be 8 episodes. I believe we get 4 in this installment. It's going to be 3 for the installment on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve. I forget what it is. And then New Year's Eve is going to be the movie finale, however they decide to do it. But I agree, like, we're not at a point where we need new characters anymore. And even Holly, though I think the young actress who plays Holly is great, and they recasted her to get a more kind of seasoned young actress who, she was like one of the leads in Evil Dead Rise, and they said that once they saw her in that, they were like, we need to bring her in. It's like you're completely recasting a character now just to get a real new face in here that's going to interact with other characters. So that, plus we get, who's the other young boy we get in this season?
Oh, Derek
is another Derek is another new character who's kind of become a little bit of a pseudo fan favorite on social media. Dipshit Derek. But that, along with all the stuff we're dealing with Vecna and what we're doing with Jamie Campbell Bower's human character, like, there's so much to juggle in 4 episodes that by the end of this installment, you want something that kind of feels more like a good wrap up to even just that. and we leave with a lot more questions
Yeah,
leading into it.
I think what this part does well is it makes you ask a lot of questions and theorize. But like I talked about in my intro, if those questions aren't paid off well in the end, then all those questions will just be more, they didn't fully flesh things out, and the questions were like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense, and then it doesn't pay off.
And going into this season, there already were so many questions with so much time passing, and I think it was you, Vinny, who said, and we can get into it more in the middle of the discussion, but the one good thing about it is that I think there is a lot of discourse in trying to figure out certain things, because you had said, I won't reveal it yet, but you think that a certain character may return. You had theorized that. I don't know if you still feel that way after watching all the episodes, because we talked about this kind of, I think we were halfway through volume 1, but I couldn't see that happening. And if it does happen, then I'm going to be like, I don't know if I would have done that. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where they go. But at this point, I mean, the series has been out now for a few days. It came out on Thanksgiving Day, it was, right?
Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah. And so, and Netflix is also doing this thing where they're doing appointment viewing, which is really interesting to me. They're releasing the episodes at a specific time on the day of release, which they don't do typically. So they're trying to eventize this series, obviously. But at this point, we're going to start jumping into some spoilery conversation, kind of diving into the details of the season, season 5, volume 1. So if you guys haven't watched it yet, make sure you guys go and watch that before you check it out. But you guys have been warned. We're going to jump into spoilers.
Let's do it.
So, as you said, Mark, there's a lot that we get in this season. So I want you to start for me with something simple. But again, full spoilers. You could be as detailed as you want. Give me one thing you really liked about this installment thus far, and one thing that you really disliked about this installment so far.
So easy to start with, like, the dislike thing. I just think there's so much time spent explaining things and catching you up because of the time jump that I don't even know if the time jump was really a necessary thing. I think they did that because the actors are getting older, so they had to do a time jump. I don't think that was part of the plan, because season 4 ends with such a apocalyptic event, and then we kind of start with regular life again in season 5. So it felt like it wasn't the original plan. So I think just like I found my mind just trailing, because they're like, we got to do the crawl tonight. What's the crawl? Talk about the crawl. We get Max, talking about, being in this dream world kind of Vecna, and she's explaining everything that she's been through. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, can we trust the audience just a little? Like a little show don't tell? This is really tiring. So I'd say that's my least favorite. My most favorite thing, I think that there's a bit more connectivity between some of the characters that we haven't seen in previous seasons, like Mike and Nancy getting together a bit more. I think, that core group of guys, on your hat. I think that's a little bit, more visible this season. I feel like previous seasons, everyone was kind of doing their own thing, but now we're kind of back together a bit. And I do think, with Vecna and the Mr. What's-It, there are some interesting ideas being presented. And I'm excited to see where those go. Vecna's entrance at the end is definitely intimidating and, presents a big threat for the end of the season. But yeah, as of right now, I'd say the theorizing is probably my favorite part, and hopefully it pays off.
Yeah. Vinny, what about you?
I'm similar. I think my favorite part of the season was Derek. because that kid is just so funny and stupid. And Derek is the best part of these 4 episodes, unironically. I also am similar to where I am excited to theorize about these more high concepts. The whole thing is, they say it multiple times, which is a dislike of mine, which I have a lot of dislikes, but a dislike is that they're constantly fucking force feeding you information to the point where it's like, we don't know Vecna's motive. We don't know. Every character has to say that at least 10 times, like, per episode. We don't know his motive. I don't know his motive either. So I'm excited to figure out what that is. If it is cool, I don't know. But some dislikes, which I have a lot. It's just that everyone in this cast, all the characters, side characters, they all feel stupid now. They all feel really stupid. I hate that every interaction, kind of going off of what you said of how it's a lot of telling, where every interaction is just here's the plan. Da 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 da. They explain the plan, and then they do a montage showing the plan. We could have just shown the plan.
Right.
We don't need to tell us. Just show us the montage. That's it. Like, boom. Oh, great. Awesome. That was a lot more fun and a lot less exhausting than having them da 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 da. And then every character is just like, every interaction is, this is happening, right? Or Vecna even coming and be like, you are special, but I can't tell you why. I can't tell you why, but you're special. I'm not gonna kill you yet, though. I don't know why I'm not killing you yet, but because you have a purpose. But I'm not gonna tell you why. And that's what it feels like every character. Like, even to the point where when Will gets out of his trance and then he talks to his mom and he's like, they're coming. Who's coming? I'm like, I swear to God, we've had that exact same like scene beat by beat every single episode for every season now. It's like, just tell him, just say, oh yeah, I just saw this, right? We don't have to do this whole like, who they're coming,
right. forced vagueness.
Yeah, and it's just bizarre. And you know what it feels like? It feels like, because I'm a DM and this Stranger Things is very inspired by Dungeons and Dragons. It feels like when I'm trying to improvise during my D&D campaign as a DM, but I'm not I'm trying to, as a DM, you can't let your players know that you don't know it. Like, they'll do something you didn't expect, and all of a sudden the story goes into a completely different direction and you have to improvise and your brain's not catching up. So in my D&D campaign, I'll like be very vague because I don't know because I'm like, I have to make shit up right now. So I'll be like, right. That's what it feels like. It feels like they're purposely being vague because they don't know. And I could be wrong, but it could, if it pays off, it'd be super cool. Overall, speaking of like these whole like dialogue interactions, the stupidity, the military involved, the people of Hawkins, like people of Hawkins just give their children to the military, and then the military is like not doing anything. Like they're shit. Like, who's funding this military? Like they're chasing random women through the fields. I like the very first scene of how it was a woman was dressed as Elle, and they're like, oh, it was another one. It was another fake one. Who was that? Was that just
like, where's the context for that?
Yeah, was that just a random woman? I'm like assuming that, and they don't know how to fight the Demogorgons yet they like have spent all this time. Like, I thought we established that like fire hurts the Demogorgons, and then it takes them fucking the entire last climactic fight scene for like a fire dude to show up and burn the thing, right? I'm sorry.
You're ready for the rant already.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm just going in, but like the Demogorgons themselves is like, it's all plot armor. Like, why? I don't understand like any of the Demogorgons going on. I don't understand that like everything that we built up to in season 4 is just gone. Like, these cracks, we just paved over them. Like, that could have been like a cool thing, and now it's just like, oh, let's forget about it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'll say this. I think the biggest negative is the over dramatization of everything. I think that the biggest thing is that we're losing the aspects of humanity between these characters that we love, that we've kind of formulated these great relationships with these characters. And I think you talked before in the beginning, Mark, about you loved season 4. I also did, and I felt like it was kind of coming off of season 3, it was a little bit of a return to form, and it was the most mature version of what the show could be. And that, like, you have these, I do agree that we start to see the splintering of the relationship between the guys, the kids that they start as, Dustin, Lucas, Mike, and Will. And it becomes this thing where you do miss that dynamic, but then when it comes together again, it feels so great to have them together again. And I do think we're going to get something similar to that in this, even though the way this season ends with Will kind of being this superpowered being, it makes things more complicated than simple to me. Mm-hmm. It makes it go in a different direction that I wasn't anticipating. And hearing the Duffer's comments about it because people were like, well, and there's this whole thing online, and I am curious your guys' thoughts on it, but they're like, people need to die. And it's like, I don't disagree that characters need to die, because the characters that they've killed off in this show have been characters that, I'm not going to say they've been insignificant, because that's not true, but they've come into the series to literally play the role of being the character that dies. Like, that's kind of what happens. They introduce 2 new characters every season, and then they'll kill one, and then one of them becomes a fan favorite.
Right.
And so, like, I was saying going into the show with some of my friends that watch the show, I'm like, if they don't kill 3 people, it doesn't mean anything. And that's kind of how I feel. And after this volume, I kind of even feel that on a deeper level, because they even do a fake out death with Harbour a second time, which is very manipulative and is really stupid to me. But I will say my not one positive, but my biggest positive from this series, or this volume, I guess, is that I do think that what the Duffers are able to do really well, and I wish they would do more of it, is those character moments. I think when we separate the characters, they actually really know how to handle an ensemble, and that's hard to do. Like, every single group of characters that they put together work, for me, personally. I don't know if you guys feel similarly, but, like, when we get in the Upside Down and we have Dustin, Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve together, I believe, or no, not Nancy. Nancy's with Mike. Who's with, there's 4 of them in the car, I think. Or am I wrong?
No, I think you're right.
I'm right?
Jonathan,
Nancy.
Yeah.
It's Jonathan, Nancy, Dustin, and Steve, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Them, I love that foursome together, and I love the banter that they're having together and things like that. I think that, again, the scenes with Mike and Nancy when they're in the hospital, they work really well this season. I think that getting to see Lucas and Mike work together when they have that whole plan that they hatched to kind of trap the Demogorgon in the house, like, that's a really cool sequence. So those kind of moments still really work for me, despite the series kind of going off this other end. But I think the biggest issue is, I agree, there's way too much setup for us to get through 4 hours, a little bit more than 4 hours, like 4.5 hours of television, to just be like, so that's how we're going to end it. And the Duffers said, they were like, well, we wanted to end it with a really low point and a really high point. And the low point is that the Demogorgons take all these kids, and the high point is that Will gets powers. And it's like, I don't know if anybody asked for Will to get powers. And in terms of the kids, you don't have any relationship with these kids. Yeah. Like, we don't know who these kids are. Like, we don't really care who these kids are. Like, we've spent over a decade or close to a decade with these kids. Yeah. Those are the relationships that we should be kind of focusing on and understanding how they're going to advance or change or grow over time. And that's what is my biggest bothersome aspect of this volume thus far.
Yeah. I mean, we have the insight into Holly and Derek, I guess, now. Those are kind of touch points for the kids that are captured by Vecna. But I agree. I think it all comes together rather conveniently. You know, he starts by taking Holly, and then he slowly rolls out and takes like one kid at a time. And then at the end, when all the kids are together, he decides to send all the Demogorgons to get the kids, when I feel like if you're interdimensional, you can open portals wherever you want. I feel like we could have just taken all the kids at once in the beginning of the season. Like, I don't know why you would slow roll it and get all the kids at different times. You know, again, that's something that might be explained later. I don't think it is. I think it's all just like, we need a big climactic finale. We need to make people feel sad that all the kids are gone, but we don't want to do it separately because then there's no emotional connection. And they just kind of went with this as the big dramatic fight at the end. But that was something that I kind of agree. Like, it seems like was just kind of thrown together at the end to give us that low point.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing is that, and IMDb reflects this, that every episode, though, it's almost like they needed time to get their footing back. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like the Duffers have been so removed from this series for so long now that they needed their time, because I personally believe that it does improve episode by episode. Like, I think even though we have this climactic fight scene that is very CGI heavy, where my brother was the one who actually brought it up to me when we were watching. He's like, wasn't season 1 like a lot more, like, he's like, there were some practical aspects to it. And I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure there were. Like, sure. And obviously the budget was way smaller for season 1 compared to what we have now in season 5. But, and it is an interesting way they shoot it. It's kind of like this kind of one-er drone CGI shot that they go around, and it's cool to look at. But at the same time, it doesn't fulfill anything. And by the end of it, you kind of are waiting around to get information. And by the end of this volume, you're just like, oh, okay, so Will has powers. That's all we get out of it. And it's like, you actually kind of establish that within the opening scene of the entire volume when you're seeing kind of what Vecna is doing to Will in the Upside Down in the flashback where they do the de-aging. Like, you get that connection where, like, they obviously are connected in some way, shape, or form. So I don't know, like, Vinny, for you, the way that they're, like, kind of crescendoing over the season, how did you feel? Like, did you feel like you were being more manipulated as a viewer as the episodes were going on, or were you finding yourself to be a little bit more interested in where they were going with some of the things they were explaining, or I guess establishing new information as the episodes went along?
Honestly, no. I feel like everything that they were trying to get me on board with, I just couldn't buy it. I couldn't buy anything. And I think it's a mix of, like I said, like in my rant, which I apologize for, but
You're passionate. That's what we care about.
In my rant, like I can't what's the word? Stretch my suspension of disbelief. Mm-hmm. It's like they're trying to make me believe that all these parents of Hawkins are just giving up their children freely to the military. That the military, we have no idea what their goal is. Like Vecna, they're just doing shit, and I'm like, all right, right, and I just don't buy anything. I don't buy anything. It feels. I feel very disconnected, and I don't know if that's a me thing, but I think that is a reason behind the lack of quality writing, right? When every character has plot armor, when the Demogorgons and the rules of the Demogorgons don't make sense because, you can stab them with a wine bottle and they bleed, but then bullets don't do anything, but then, you know what I mean? Like, there's no connectivity, and I just can't buy it anymore. I just can't buy it. So that's why it feels like they're trying to manipulate me, like you said, like in your question. They're trying to manipulate me into buying this, but I'm not. And also the over dramatic dramatization, right? We see a lot of people are memeing the dialogue this season, and it's definitely something. I think that plays into it because every character, like I said in my rant, is having atrocious corny dialogue. The actors feel like they're just phoning it in at times, and every time they're trying to lead me into this mystery, it feels like I'm just being like spoken directly to instead of like
feeling something.
Yeah, feel like, oh my god, there's a clue here. No, it's just like, all right, viewer, here's this. We have to go here for our next clue. Like, I think of season 1 and season 2 where they were like horror movies. They were fearful. Season 1 and 2 were scary. Like, I think of like the fake body of Will that they take from the lake and they like cut open and it's foam. That scene's terrifying. The entire tone was so much darker back then, but it also felt like a mystery. You had no idea. Like, it felt like we were on the journey with them. They weren't speaking and yelling directly to us as the audience, like, okay, here's the journey now. Right? It's like we were picking up these clues with them. We were lost with them. Now it feels like I'm just watching entertainment, which I know is like, some people will say that's an arbitrary type of phrasing, but like, it's not immersive anymore.
Yeah. Mark, do you feel like you're losing connection to some of the characters?
I feel like Hopper and Elle, that relationship is kind of being like retreaded on things we've already kind of established with them. Like, we know Hopper is fearful for Elle because he lost a daughter and he sees her as his new daughter. We've seen that explored before, and I feel like a lot of the dialogue between them is Hopper just yelling at her, being like, I want to protect you. You're being a punk. Like, you know what happened to my kid. And it's stuff that, those characters already know about each other.
Yeah.
And like, that kind of cheapens their relationship that we've already established. Like, when you know someone, you don't rehash those type of things.
Yeah.
You realize those are like sensitive subjects and you work around them. And like you said, there was that cheap, fake out death again for Hopper, where we know to a degree he is an alcoholic. He has a death wish because of the difficult life he's lived, but he's kind of found new reasons to live with Joyce and Elle. And again, like you said, it just felt cheap to have that like slow motion sequence of him just pulling open the vest, and then he walks back out like kind of defeated, like, Elle, your sister's in there. It's like, Oh, okay. All right. I guess Hopper's fine, and he just has a bomb strapped to his chest now. I mean, maybe it comes back up again.
But
I don't
twice,
know.
I mean, twice
But
in
twice is a
5
lot.
seasons is a lot.
Yeah, it is for sure.
I think so. There's a comment too, and again, not to make this so dark so quickly, but I am curious on your guys' thoughts because, like I just said, the audience is bloodthirsty, right? And a lot of things that we see across these major television events, series, is that we get deaths. Like that's what happens. One show in particular that again is referenced, and I know Vinny, please don't go on another rant, but Game of Thrones is something where. No, I know how passionate you are about it. There's a lot into the way that series ended, but they specifically address that series in relation to Stranger Things, where they say this show is not Game of Thrones. I'm hoping it surprises people, but there's no red wedding. If that's what you're asking, that would be depressing. So it's not that I'm expecting a depressing ending for this series of these characters that have become so near and dear to us over almost a near decade, but the article also references that they're like, yeah, like. They killed off a new fan favorite, Eddie Munson, and there was a traumatic blow to Max. Which, yes, Max is in a coma based in what we're seeing in the surface of the real world. But now we have Sadie sink back fully in this other dimension with Holly. So it's like we're still going to be seeing her character interact with Holly and being a living, breathing amalgam of something, right? So would you guys be upset if there isn't a real... sort of payoff's not the right word, but again, like stakes, the level of stakes that we need to get through to make this matter? And it's like Hopper's the character that a lot of people have always been like, well, Hopper's gonna die, and it's like, if Hopper's the only character that dies after it's already been faked twice, I don't know if it's gonna have the payoff that they want the audience to have, where they're just gonna be like, yeah, but like we kind of figured Hopper was gonna die,
right?
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some fake stakes, like you said, with Hopper, but also Mike and Nancy's parents. You know, that seemed like they were dead, and then both of them are totally fine.
Yeah.
You know, the Demogorgons can kill all these military guys pretty easily, but 2 house parents just fighting them off with random household equipment, they don't die to Demogorgons. I think my thing always is like with Game of Thrones, yeah, you can say, oh, look, they're killing all these main characters off, but in the grand scope of things, the deaths make sense when you're seeing them, and it feels like a lot of weight, but then you kind of zoom out and you're like, no, that makes sense when they died there. You know, Robb Stark, all that stuff is like, oh, this is the new main character, and then he dies, and you're like, no, but then you're like, well, makes sense. Like, from the Stark family, it should be these 3 to survive and move on. So it's not that people need to die, it's that the deaths need to make sense and build stakes, and if you're faking deaths, and if you're killing off arbitrary characters, where it's like, if they die or not, it's like, all right, whatever. But they just need to have weight to them. So I can see where they're coming from, but we don't need like an open season of killing. It's just, you know, if you're going to show a character dying, like just go through with it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
I agree. Vinny, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't need bloodlust though. Like I don't need a death, to be honest. I honestly feel a little weird if a character at this point, because we never really established this show to be like that high of stakes where it's like kids are dying, right? Like they're kind of all okay in the end. So I feel like I don't really need a death, but I do agree though that we need some sort of elevated stakes, because, you know, as I've been saying, I feel like I'm not getting it. Like I'm not convinced that these stakes are true and real. I also hope that whatever Vecna's doing with whatever he's doing, right, his master plan, that this doesn't all end in a very simple... So basically what I'm trying to say is every season has ended with Elle slow motion screaming at the camera, like, ah, and then monster explodes. That happens again, I'm gonna be really fucking pissed off because it just shouldn't. That feels like the easy, and it goes in with this whole idea of stakes of like, if they just do that, then it just tells me that it was just easy all along. Like there was no stakes to begin with. That she could have just been like, boom.
Well, don't worry, Vinny. I don't think it's going to be 11. I think it's going to be 3 characters in particular going at the camera. But I do want to dive into that. So like the Elle and Hopper story. We get that, like you said, it leads to this lab and Hawkins. But shout out Linda Hamilton also appears in this season, best known for the Terminator. She plays Dr. K. So it is cool to see again another kind of 80s reference that they kind of lump in with it. But we get Elle's reuniting with her sister Callie, who is number 8 in the I guess it was 12 that were initially in the lab, correct? 12 children.
Yeah, I think so.
And everyone is obviously talking about online. Vinny, again, you as a Dungeons and Dragons player, and the way that it works, like they show the 20 is the die that gets rolled. I guess it's last season, right? That kind of leads to, or one of the seasons where they roll the D20 and it leads to the killing of the monster in the game of Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Well, they're saying that 11 plus the other character is 8.
Oh.
And then 1 would be Vecna, which would also relate to Will, meaning that those 3 characters might be the 3 that come together to kill Vecna in the end. Have you guys heard this theory? What do you guys think about it? Vinny, I'll start with you because you have the Dungeons and Dragons kind of background.
Yeah, I didn't even pick up on that detail, but that is cool. Yeah, they're definitely, it's gonna be them 3. I almost wish that the rest of the party though, like, had a,
Purpose.
Yeah, I feel like everyone, they kind of always make these metaphors to their D&D characters. How Will plays Will the Wise, and I think Mike plays like a paladin or a fighter.
Sorcerer, I think.
Oh, does he? Either way, right? They keep making these references. I just, again, like I said just before, I want the whole group to take down Vecna. I don't want it to be like just Elle again, or just the powered people. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm curious your guys' thought on Max and her kind of role in all this, because she's, surviving kind of in this dream world in Vecna's mind, and she knows what he's weak to. She knows how to get out. She's had a close encounter with him. I'm curious, do you have any theories for Max and Holly?
I don't have any theories, but I will say it is the most interested I am in the whole volume. I'm most interested in what that world represents and what it means for Vecna and Mr. Whatsit in general, and even the role, like people have been pointing out, obviously the role of the Kate Bush song for Max's character and what that meant in significance in season 4, and Mr. Whatsit is giving Holly like music as a gift, and like, is he understanding and learning how to manipulate music against people now, which I think would be interesting, and it would be different, and it would play against what they as a group understood that they thought they understood coming off of season 4. So that is what I want them to subvert my expectation, is really what I want them to do, especially coming off of this volume, because I felt like we didn't get as much fulfillment as we had been hoping for, So I don't have a theory necessarily. I haven't dove deep enough into it. But the music thing is something that I picked up on, and I'm curious if you guys had thought about it too. But what about you? What do you think about Max's role sort of in all of it?
I think it's cool to kind of get the insight into Henry's past and where that trauma is, because he is obviously afraid of this cave that they're in. It's like the safe zone that he doesn't want to go into, whether that's like the family trauma that we're going to get into, or if it's an actual thing, if it's if it represents like an actual monster, like the Mind Flayer or whatever. Part of me was like, is Max also going to get powers because she had that close encounter with Vecna? I know she didn't actually consume anything like Will did with Vecna, but I'm almost curious, like, we saw her eyes roll back and turn into like the ghostly like vision, and that's kind of what Will has at one point. So I'm like, if she can get out of there, will she also manifest powers, and then will she kind of be part of that super powered group or not? That's kind of the one that's rolling around in my head. I don't know, but maybe. I don't. Holly will have them potentially because she's already hooked up, right?
Yes.
So she might have powers, and then she can guide her through that.
Vinny, what about you?
Yeah, I don't know where they're gonna go with Max. The thing I liked about season 4, if we're talking about stakes, which I don't want to feel repetitive, but the thing I liked about season 4 was we were talking about how you said, quote, Max took a big blow, and there's that incredibly devastating last episode where, like, Hawkins is cracking apart. You see the bully's body get like split in half, which is fucking insane for Stranger Things. and she goes like blind and she's in a coma now. That is intense. And I honestly, I don't know where I'm kind of going with this thought. It's more or less like, do I want them to reverse that? Because then does it make it feel too easy? But then again, I want to see Max win. I can't lie. You know, Max is a cool character. Like, she's a part of the gang.
Yeah.
So I have no idea where they're going with their character. Simply, that's my answer.
Yeah. I will say we dove into obviously the reveal of Callie, but we haven't talked about Stranger Things ever on this channel. So I am curious, like, the most reviled episode of this series is by far the spin-off episode, if you want to call it that, which it very clearly seemed like that's what they were going for, was to try to create some sort of spin-off series based on the kids of Hawkins and who came from the lab. To then reintroduce this character, I thought was a very interesting choice, because it's by far the most negative reception that anyone's ever had to anything Stranger Things related. So for you, Mark, when you get that reveal, what are your thoughts? Like, what's going through your head? Because for me, I'm just like, okay. Like, it didn't mean anything to me, because it's a character, again, that we don't really care about her. Like, we haven't seen enough about her, and obviously she has this relationship with 11, but it's not one that we feel deeply connected to the same way we do even with 11 with Hopper or 11 with the rest of the kids.
Exactly. I mean, that was an episode that I kind of like got out of my mind.
Yeah, we erased it from our brains.
We just don't. I just don't remember that episode. So if she didn't show her wrist with like the 8, I would have been like, "Who the hell is that? I don't even know who that is." So from a conceptual level, it's nice to have Elle back with her sister. You know, obviously it meant a lot to her. It's good to have, you know, another, you know, kid that's super powered, and it gives us a little bit of an insight of what the military is doing. But for me, yeah, this wasn't one of those moments where like they bring back a fan favorite character and it's like, oh shit, we just got them back. Like, this was just kind of like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Vinny, did you feel similar?
Yeah, I felt similar. I actually am a little bit more positive, though, I will say. Because I feel that episode in season 2, regardless, like, it's the worst episode of the series. I feel like everyone will agree with that. But they made a purpose to it now. And that's what I liked, right? Because, like, you have all these other characters like 11, and it's very much established that 11 is, you know, one of the most powerful people in the world, and everybody wants her. The military's chasing her for all these seasons, and the Upside Down's chasing her, all that, right? So then you introduce all these other 11 like characters, and then we just forget about them. No, I'm glad actually that they're bringing it back, because it feels like there's an importance to it now. It's not like, oh, that's weird that the military's not after, you know, those other fucking 8 versions of psychic users. So I am a little bit more positive. However, I do agree that there's no like real connection there. It just kind of feels like, okay, cool.
It's a plot device more than anything else. Yeah. I think that the one thing that I'm feeling that I hope they can remedy within volume 2 is, again, like these character moments, because I don't even feel through 4 episodes, again, 4.5 hours of television, that I feel like I mean, obviously you're rooting for the good guys, but it's like, what character do I care about them achieving the most? Because for me, it's like, I don't like, every single character doesn't get enough of understanding what they're feeling. Maybe with the exception of Will, which I do want to talk about, because before we started rolling, we had very different opinions. Mm-hmm. I kind of like where they're going with the character of Will, but the acting, I'm like, Noah Schnapp, man. Like, to me, it's like, I look at their filmographies too on IMDb, and it's like, he's the one that's done the least acting since Stranger Things. And to me, it's like, I don't know if he's living up to what the character is asking of the actor. I was impressed with Finn Wolfhard this season. I think that the actress Natalia Dyer, who plays Nancy, I think she's great, and I think she should be in so much more, and I'm always impressed with her. I really like Jay Keery as Steve, but that's such a fan favorite character that, like, that's kind of me just being biased and loving him. But a lot of the other characters, like, I don't feel as connected to as I want to, like, especially the rest of the kids. Robin was a character that I really liked since her introduction in this season. I think it's a lot more of that over explaining things, and they're giving her all these big monologues that are obviously exploring her sexuality and things like that. But what about serving the larger overall story? Like, that's what is Robin's role in that? Like, she's the radio DJ. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like, we're not going anywhere. So I want to talk character with you, and you can start with Will specifically if you want. But how are you feeling about the way they're handling the individual legacy characters throughout this volume?
Yeah, so I actually liked Will a lot more than I have in previous seasons. Right now, I think, you know, you bringing up Robin is interesting because they have a relationship in this season where they form a friendship, they form a bond over, you know, their shared, you know, sexuality. They're both kind of in the same place. Well, Robin's a little bit more mature. But yeah, those sections where they talk, I like that relationship forming, but the sections where they talk, it just felt so over dramatic, and like they have, like, there's nothing else to the character but their sexuality, which I think is just cheap. Like, you know, they should be friends because they connect on other things, and I feel like the only thing that they talk about is like coming out, and that's really it. And I felt like that was just undersold, and it made Robin just feel like a talking piece instead of like an actual character. Dustin, I think everyone's a little bit down on because he's usually the very happy-go-lucky character, but now he's the depressed one and he's going through all this stuff. But I think that makes sense for him because of what happened with Eddie and how much he cares for the Hellfire Club. You know, does it make sense? Like, the bullies are scared of the Hawkins 4? No, I don't know why the popular kids were like, oh no, it's Lucas and Mike. And then Will just sitting in the background like, hey, you know, get away from my boy. I'm like, these are the worst bullies ever. I am curious to see what they do with Dustin and Steve, because they have a great relationship, and then here there's a lot of tension between them. Is it Steve feeling jealous that Dustin kind of latched on to Eddie Munson and he was looking up to him and he kind of fell out with Steve? Is Dustin, you know, angry at Steve for not being there for him? Just all these things that I think are interesting to explore later on. Other characters, yeah, Mike, I did like this season. I thought Mike was a lot less annoying, and like you said, it was just him not fawning over Elle the whole time.
Yeah, definitely. And they don't spend a lot of time together, which is an interesting thing. 11 and Mike.
Ship Mike and Will. Ship it.
Vinny, what about you with the character stuff? Because I know you said you don't feel connected to a lot of the characters, but is there any character that you did feel a little bit of a connection to in relation to season 5, volume 1?
I think Will is more interesting, but again, I agree with you that Noah Schnapp does not have the chops. It feels just very like phoning it in nearly all the time. You know, I'm not like super negative about any of the particular characters, but I do think that Steve, Jonathan, Robin, they felt very now they just became like a stereo or a trope of what they once were. They all became a trope. Like, Jonathan used to be a really cool character, and now it's just him and Steve being like, we want to get Nancy, or I don't know what's going on there, right? Like,
I was so confused by that scene with the ring, and then Murray talking to him about like having sex with Nancy. Like, that, I felt like that was such a weird scene.
Well, all right. There's a lot of weird sexual innuendos in this volume in particular.
That's true.
Where it's almost like the Duffers are trying to be tongue-in-cheek and being like, we know that these guys are in their 20s, and we want you guys to know that they're maturing just like you guys are as an audience. And I hate it. And a lot of people that I've talked to hate it. And so, like, Duffers, if you're listening, I know it's already coming out, but you might want to fix it before volume 2, because it's not one of those moments where you're like, oh, like, these characters are growing. It's in those moments where you're like, that is so weird to say for these characters. It's weird to say for almost any character on television. There's a whole dick joke that happens. And it's so cringe-inducing. And it literally was the only time throughout the 4 episodes that I paused and I went, what are they doing? because it doesn't fit the tone of the show. It doesn't fit these characters, and it's just very, very weird the way they're handling it. So, but I agree. Like, and Murray's whole role in this volume is also like weird. Like, he's just like delivering like things to people and then being like, "See you later," and then he's gone. And it's like there's a lot of those relationships with the characters that it's almost it's such a disservice to the show to gloss over not starting right where we ended, because it was such a impactful ending that had everybody talking about Stranger Things again. Like, season 4 was so impactful in so many ways where you saw the characters and the writing be more mature, to now this feels like a step back. So I don't dislike this season or this volume. I do think that, again, as we go along, even though the dick joke is in the last episode of the volume, it does get better as the episodes go along, and we are building towards something. The one thing I did also want to touch on with you guys, though, is that so the runtimes are out for the remaining episodes. And so, like, episode 4 of this season is an hour and 26 minutes. The first episode of volume 2, which is going to be, episode is called Shock Jock. It's 17 minutes longer than this episode, which is an hour and 26 minutes.
Oh my God.
So I'm going to give you the runtimes, because this is 3 movies, literally.
Oh my goodness.
We have an hour and 43 minutes for chapter 5. Chapter 6 is an hour and 41 minutes. And chapter 7 is an hour and 58 minutes.
And that's it.
And then there's one more episode on
episode
on
8 is
New
like 2
Year's-
hours.
New Year's
you
Eve.
think?
I have that runtime too. It's an hour and 50. So the longest episode is the second to last episode, the penultimate of the series. So coming off of that and understanding that information, obviously they have a lot of time to fill in these kind of gaps. But it is manipulated. It is manipulative that they've done this over the 4 episodes. So hearing that, you look very concerned. So I'd love to hear kind of what your thoughts are kind of leading into volume 2.
Yeah, I mean, you said something at the beginning of this, like, because they were able to do it in previous seasons, they feel like they have the freedom to do it again, or they have to do it again. Like, oh, we did a 2-hour episode last season, we have to do more 2-hour episodes. When I feel like this first volume, I think this could have been 3 episodes. I think they could have shaved like 15 minutes off a lot of these episodes and it would have lost nothing.
Yeah.
So while I am concerned by that, they also do have a lot of things to explain. So I just hope when they explain them, it's interesting and not just information dumping.
Exactly.
For
No,
2
no
hours.
more exposition.
Yeah,
we don't need
please.
any more exposition.
Please.
Just lead us into the next chapter. Vinny, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't like the sound of that because it's a TV show.
Hell yeah, Vinny.
Yeah, like I like long things. I don't mind it. I don't mind 4-hour, movies. It's no sus.
Hey, man, they made the joke in the show, so I can.
We're on brand. We're on brand.
Yeah. So, but I like longer movies. I enjoy literally like all my favorite movies are 3 hours or 4 hours long. But here's the thing: I don't like the sound of it. I'm being optimistic. It could be amazing, but from the sound of it, it's a TV show. If you're having these episodes each be nearly 2 hours long, I don't think you did your job pacing it correctly. Now, it's an assumption. Optimistically, this could be bangers. This could be like crazy wacky stuff.
And then you overlook it, you're saying, at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
But just from the sound of it, it seems like they are not doing their job pacing wise.
Yeah.
And they're you know what I mean? Like a good writing is tight. It's,
No,
it's a TV show too. It's like it's 8 episodes. You already have 8 hours to play it.
Yeah.
Now you have like 16 hours to play it.
No,
or
for sure.
however long.
Totally. Before we get into the last kind of thoughts, we're not going to give scores for this because it is a volume. It's not the full season. I wanted to just see if either of you guys had questions for the rest of us that you wanted to explore that we didn't have time for. Are you ready for final thoughts, basically?
No, I think I talked about the one question that I had around Max and like what her role in the rest of the season is. Maybe just I'm curious what you guys have thought about Henry being able to project himself into the right side up as a human version of himself when he's able to also live in that world in his Vecna version. You know, he comes through the portal, he's Vecna, and he kills people, but then he's also showing himself as Henry to these little kids that no one else can see, but the kids can. And I think that was an interesting new power that we're seeing. So I was curious what you guys thought of that.
I think it's cool. I think it is more horrific. It is something to understand that it's only coming from the scope of the children. That's actually scarier to me than literally the Demogorgons taking the kids, because you see it in the scene. Which, by the way, I'm not sure if you guys had seen this. Really cool that the Duffers actually casted the elementary school teacher as their drama teacher from high school.
Cool.
That they casted in the role, which is awesome, and they put a whole post in supporting the art, so we love that. But that is an eerie scene where you see that the teacher is seeing Holly, which it's almost like is she like a schizophrenic? Like she's just talking to someone and there's nobody there. Meanwhile, like she has this real obsession and understanding and fondness for Mr. What's-It based on what she's understood him to be. So to me, it adds to the horror aspect that I do love about Stranger Things. What about you, Vinny?
Yeah, I like it, but it goes back to the first thing we talked about of, you know, you said it's a new idea, it's a new high concept being introduced. Are they going to pay it off? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like as of now, this is not another negative, because as of now I just feel that it's too late in the game. But like we said at the beginning of the podcast, that could change. They could actually wrap this up and be like, oh, actually Vecna, this is how it works, and it could be a really freaking cool way on how the power works, and I would be super satisfied.
Right.
So we'll see
Yeah.
My question, how do you guys feel about Vecna's redesign?
I like it. I know that Jamie Campbell Bower, who plays the character of Henry and Vecna, talked about how he was excited to kind of undergo another like makeup challenge, because it is a bigger concept of what he looks like and the burns and kind of what came from, and the transformation that you're seeing happen in real time, where you're seeing Vecna kind of form. I will say this, kind of coming off of it, I think that knowing how much we saw of Vecna last season, I don't know if Vecna can be the final boss in all of this. You know, and I know a lot of people have pointed to the Mind Flayer, and there's a design that Will does against the wall that kind of resembles the Mind Flayer. So I'm hoping that, though Vecna's design is really cool, I'm hoping that they kind of hit us with one more big, like, what the fuck is that? Because the design of the Demogorgons and the Mind Flayer and Vecna have all been, to me, probably the best part of the series, is the design element of what they're able to do with Hawkins. And again, that world building that the Duffers do, I do think they do a really good job at it. So I like the way that the design looks, though. He is more menacing, and he is kind of a terrifying figure, and he's kind of based on Freddy Krueger, which is also an 80s kind of reference. So I do like it. What about you?
Yeah, I don't have much else to add. They did reference Rogue One as the inspiration for his entrance at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
That they wanted to kind of copy what Vader did at the end of Rogue One with the rebels in the hallway. So I thought that was really cool. I had another question for you guys that I'm trying to think of right now. So I'll think of it.
So I'll finish with.
I was
ahead.
gonna say, because I brought up the redesign because I noticed, because I'm like, I think it's cool. It's actually they're trying to make it look like Vecna from the official Wizards of the Coast D&D art. Because in Vecna in D&D, the official art book, he has like this armor piece, and it kind of like has these these like shoulder points, and he has like no torso, and you could see that that's what they did now. Like he has like no torso, and it's like wrapped, and you could see through him. There's all holes in the corpse. However, I do miss the practical makeup. A lot of it is now just being covered in CGI, which I'm a little like disappointed about, because the first design was so cool.
Yeah.
And it felt so real. But yeah, that's
Oh,
Yeah.
I remember
You got
that
it? Okay,
question.
go ahead.
Yeah.
Hit us with
So at the end, when Will does have his powers awakened, do you think that was an intentional move by Vecna to send those Demogorgons after those people that are close to him to kind of test him, to push him to unlock his powers? Because it felt too...
Vecna using it to manipulate for his own.
Yeah, he must
Yeah.
need Will for something else, because like Vinny said, he didn't kill Will when he could have killed Will. He didn't kill Will's mom when he had a choice. He kind of just pushes her to the side. So it feels like he has some use for Will that we don't know yet.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that was very intentional. If it wasn't, it was just like cheap, and they were just like, oh, they're about to kill 3 main characters.
Yeah.
Can Will stop him? I don't know where you landed on that. Do you think that was planned or not?
I don't have much to add, but I will say yes. Simply yes. I do think that there's a whole. Vecna's a very complex villain.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely. Did you have any thoughts or theories behind it, Vinny?
No, I hope there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything for you, or you're good? Okay.
I'm good.
So my last thing for you guys, and then we'll just wrap up. Give me because we're not doing normal scores. Give me a 1 to 10 in terms of optimism for Volume 2, and only Volume 2, not the rest of the season, because we will be again separating these reviews hopefully to be doing Volume 2 and then the finale. So, give me your level of optimism leading into Volume 2, coming off of Volume 1.
Let me get... I want to say 8, just because I've seen them do it before. Like, they've had these long episodes with season 4, and they pulled it off. They've, usually they've introduced something new every season, and it's mostly paid off. So I'll go on the optimistic end of the spectrum, even though I wasn't impressed with Volume 1. I'll say an 8.
Okay, Vinny, what about you?
Yeah, I give it a 7. As much as I'm a hater today, I am a bit optimistic, because they could do this. They could do it. They could answer all the questions that we've had for years, and they could put a really nice bow on this, and it'll be really cool and be epic and exciting, and everyone will love each other and happy ending and awesome, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Let's will it into existence, Duffers. I'm going to say an 8 too. I'm going to try to be optimistic. Again, I really do love the show. I am a bit disappointed by what we get with Volume 1, but I still think that I do like the ramp up that we get to the end of this volume, and we don't have to wait super long. We only have to wait about a little more than 3 weeks as of this recording to get Volume 2. So I'm excited for that. But let us know in the comments, what are your guys' thoughts on Volume 1 of Season 5 of Stranger Things? Obviously, it's a very big show. Please blow this one up for us. We want to keep covering this show. We're excited to talk about Volume 2 and the finale when it comes out. We got a lot of other coverage already planned for the last month of the year. I can't believe that 2025 is almost done already, but it's also award season, so we're going to be having a lot of more coverage of a lot of awards movies, a lot of end of year lists and favorite movies, favorite television series, most anticipated stuff. We'll have a lot more content and hopefully interviews for you guys on the channel. I just did an interview with the writer, director, and actor Cooper Rife. That's on the channel if you guys can check that out. We have tons of other reviews and other things on there. We have a review upcoming for No Other Choice. We're covering Pluribus week to week, and that's going to wrap up by the end of the year. So lots of stuff for you guys to check out, and you guys can follow us on social media if you guys don't already. All that stuff is below me in the video, and it's also in our YouTube description. Just signing off, I'm Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Mark Jacobino.
And I'm Vinny Albano.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is the culture.